Welcome to NFL Daily, where we can officially announce the stretch run is here. I'm Gregg Rosenthal here in the Chris Wesleyan Podcast Studio with Patrick Claybon and Jourdan Rodrigue, and I like words to have definitive meaning.
Okay.
I think we should define the stretch run as the section of the season where the byes are over, everyone has the same record, 4-game sprint, and we done.
I am co-signing this. This is the official beginning of the stretch run. Any previous use is thereby invalid.
Okay.
The architect of the conversation speaks.
These two things are connected because I think the stretch run ultimately decides the conversation. And I, made up this definition 45 seconds ago while speaking.
Yeah.
But I like it. I think it should stand.
No, it should absolutely stand. It reminds me of famed sayer of things, Cole Beasley, saying that dogs don't stretch before they run. But famously, you see dogs stretching all the time.
And not only that, big stretch.
Yeah. If nobody says big stretch, the stretch never happened.
So last week, I called it the best slate of the season. And it was. But I got to say, the top of this slate, and a lot of good matchups too. So maybe this, I hope this is an every week thing. I haven't looked ahead, but we got like 5 or 6 bangers, plus Phillip Rivers returning to football.
Dadgummit.
Just like an amazing combination of things.
Shout out to Phillip Rivers, and shout out to everybody under the age of 44 who can now, a lot of us look up and say, hey, somebody older than me getting back into it. So congratulations in that aspect. But we've also got a lot at stake. The Detroit Lions are trying to get into the postseason as that becomes into a threat, in the Los Angeles Rams trying to maintain that course towards the number 1 seed in the NFC. It is a the annual Jared Goff revenge game. Gregg Rosenthal, the Rams are favored by 5.5 points against those Lions. The over-under is 55.5. Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady there to see these two teams go at it. How do you see it going?
I can't wait to watch it. I think about what Dan Campbell said at the start of the season. It was almost like he was trying to lower expectations. He might have seen what was coming, that, hey, sometimes it's not about the shiny record in the regular season. Maybe this is going to have to be a team that earns its stripes. And however we get into the playoffs, the important part is that we're playing well then. We're not worried about seeding. And here they are, needing a win in the worst way in a matchup that, they have won in the biggest of spots. They won in the playoffs, and then they won in the following week 1. And these two teams just don't feel like those two teams anymore. I should have mentioned, Jourdan, by the way, we're leading with the afternoon slate and the primetime slate this week because there's so many good games in this window, and you are not going to be the one assigned to this game. This is going to be a Patrick Claybon special.
I love
Little
it.
Rams Lions.
The Rams can clinch a playoff berth if they win this game. And that is significant, obviously. And I have to say, I, for one, am glad that the most important thing about this game for either team is playoff implications, and that potentially for the Rams, and also the Detroit Lions fighting hard to stay alive and in the hunt if they're, on the graphic and in the wild card consideration in the graphic right now. Not the history and layers and folds of drama that we have talked about for years at this point about what got Matthew Stafford to Los Angeles and got Jared Goff to Detroit. Instead, let's talk football, guys.
But isn't the matchup, in terms of how Stafford right now,
it's a great
maybe
matchup.
Leading the conversation, has a better matchup and is supported crazily by a better running game than the Lions, by a better defense than the Lions, by a better pass rush than the Lions. I think that's really flipped since the last time these two teams played. Not that there was that much of a difference, but it felt like, Patrick, like the Lions were a more complete team then, and that the Rams are a more complete team now.
Yeah, especially when you consider once again, the Lions going through injuries in the secondary, albeit they're at the safety spot now where Kirby Joseph not 100%, Brian Branch out for the remainder of the 2025 season, where you've seen those guys for the past couple of seasons, even when the rest of the injuries were taking place in the secondary, kind of eliminate that mid 10 to 19 yard aspect of the field where Matthew Stafford has been dominant. And again, Stafford's dominant everywhere with the bye for Drake May.
Except in the rain.
Yeah, he's we'll put an asterisk on the rain because a lot of guys have struggled in the elements, as fans of bad football like to say. 54 points right now has Matthew Stafford in the lead because Drake May was coming off of a bye.
Oh, for the conversation, yes.
This, because we do count the Lions as a contender, and Jahmyr Gibbs has worked his way up into a necessary aspect of the conversation where Stafford will get bonus points for beating a contender and double those as we get into late this season. So we're tracking that. We keep track of everything here. But it's hard to go Lions. I know that the Lions look great against the Dallas Cowboys, but there's just so many other aspects where CeeDee Lamb left that game. Puka is playing insane football right now, like a crazy person who's actually catching everything. To where I'm gonna go Rams here.
And the Lions, because of the injuries that you mentioned, they have given up the fourth most number of explosive plays in the NFL to this point, which is surprising because you do watch them play and they play with such tenacity, and they're very well coached by Kelvin Shepherd. And you know, it's a completeness thing. To your point, Greg, I think it's really interesting how you mentioned some of the flipping of fates of the roster builds of these teams. It's also the flipping of fates in a way of some of the offensive tendencies. And you know, Sean McVay, when Jared Goff was his quarterback, built one of the most complete and explosive run games that we had seen in the NFL to that point with Todd Gurley, and got the play action pass game going. Well, when Matthew Stafford comes to town, it's pure drop back and keep the defense in front of you and don't flip your back and throw the ball the hell down the field, right? But no run game to speak of. But now they've got everything, and they're using Stafford in some of that play action, which is leading to some of the explosive plays. And the offensive line is protecting really, really well, which is also something that they had struggled with from time to time, despite the fact that they have injuries. And I've got a serious eye on Warren McClendon, who's filling in at right tackle and has for 6 games total this season for the injured Rob Havenstein, because if there is a hinge point in this game, it's right there, because Aiden Hutchinson lines up on both sides of the defensive line. And on third downs, as Patrick Claybon astutely pointed out before the show,
Jourdan was the one who's looking it up. I don't know why she's giving me credit here.
Loads up. That's what we had. You helped me. You helped me access the correct space to look this up. I was like, "Where's the heat chart? Damn it!" He loads up over the right side, or over across from the right tackle. Excuse me. And so that's, to me, if Warren McClendon can keep playing at this level that he's playing at, which is only 4 pressures given up on 207 pass blocks, no sacks, then the Rams are going to be able to protect.
Yeah, they haven't had as deep and dynamic a pass rush, the Lions, as they would want. Hutchinson's obviously great. My defensive player of the year honking from the first half of the season. That's died down a little bit, but he's obviously still a great player, but you just need more than one guy. Lee McNeil's maybe not had the same impact that he had pre-injury after that first week he was back, but I really just look at the running game. I'm glad you mentioned Kirby Joseph. That is just like an injury item to watch, because he's had this same injury that's been bothering him all year that I think it sounds like it might never go away, but he did return to practice on Wednesday. So this might be the week that he gives it a go. Alex Anzalone, though, who got hurt late in that Lions game, was not at practice Wednesday, so that's something to keep an eye. The thing is, when I watch this running game right now, and I know they just played the Cardinals, but the Rams running game, they're just getting such push, such cohesion, such great running, and there's no drop-off whatsoever when they go to Blake Corum, and he adds a little more juice to what Kyren Williams did. I wouldn't say he's better, but Sean McVay's finally doing the thing that he said that he was going to do forever, which is truly have
years and years,
right,
and years.
Have like 2 backs that carry the load together. And Corum's kind of doing the thing that Kyren Williams did, which is it's not an easy offense for a running back, and it's a second-year leap where it really took him a little while to get going, kind of like Kyren Williams, and then the second year they just take off. On the flip side, though, you've been talking about it all year, Jourdan. As I throw my note card around, these Rams corners, they're a problem, and I know it was a blowout last week, but you know who was getting smoked a lot in that game? Emmanuel Forbes for a second straight week, and Ahkello Witherspoon, who hasn't been great this season. So if there's a strength to the Lions, like they know how to pick on your secondary. Amon-Ra is hopefully a little healthier off of a mini bye, and it could be a fun little shootout.
Well, to be fair, Ahkello Witherspoon's clavicle was broken in half, so if he was on injured reserve for most of the season to this point.
Well, since he came back, right?
Yeah,
I'm saying he had a rough week last week.
He had a bad week last week, and I would say Emmanuel Forbes had a really, really strong middle stretch. But we're in the stretch run, Patrick.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Once the stretch run begins, which is officially right now because there are no more buys, as defined by Gregg Rosenthal and seconded and thirded here on the show, this is the stretch run. So you can't clavicle or not. If you have all your body parts and you're out there getting torched, it's the stretch run. So we got to note it.
And the Rams, they're trying to win the division. You have the Seahawks and the Lions in a 5-day stretch, which is crazy. But they're also trying to get the 1 seed. So I know they could win the division if they gave this game up and then won on Thursday. But a 1 seed is a playoff victory. So their only route really to a 1 seed is winning these 2 games. And the Lions, they're not out of it if they lose it, but they'll be in a pretty tough spot.
Mhm.
Big one.
You want to talk about 1 seeds? Let's go over to the AFC, where right now the number 1 seed Denver Broncos riding a win streak, a huge 10-game win streak. The over-under 42.5, but the Broncos in this win streak are not favored because Toyotathon is on, the December to Remember sales event. Whatever Toyota and Lexus family sales event in the holidays you want to discuss, Jourdan Rodrigue, because Jordan Love is super hot right now. Jim and Tony Romo on the call. How do you see it going?
I'm so happy right now. Okay, the best thing about Jordan Love playing like this every year during Toyotathon is a new tradition that Patrick Claybon and I have started in the newsroom on Sundays, which every time he makes a throw, pointing at each other across the cubicles and going, Toyotathon. I love it. I asked Greg if I could have this game. These are my 2 favorite among my 2 favorite defenses. It goes Houston Texans, Green Bay Packers, Denver Broncos, Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks up there as well in my hierarchy in no particular order. Even though I just said hierarchy, I think that this game is going to be an absolute rock fight. I know that we've seen both of these offenses really turn on, especially the last couple of weeks. Green Bay, especially having Christian Watson as the bona fide dude number 1 for Jordan Love with 5 touchdowns in 4 games, and that beautiful moment, the Lambeau Leap last week, and with Bo Nix playing really well, and that offensive line just rocking and rolling for the Broncos. I get all of that. I see all of that. But these 2 defenses are reaching the apex of their powers right now. And the way that Jeff Hafley came out of the bye week, and the way that, and the way that the Broncos and Vance Joseph is scheming things up again with Patrick Surtain back, it is absolutely gorgeous to watch, and it's physical, and it covers so much ground, and it annoys you if you're the quarterback, and I love it, and I cannot wait to watch this.
Which quarterback is more prepared to deal with the other defense? The obvious answer.
Toyotathon, Greg.
The obvious answer would be Love, but I think in terms of Bo Nix having the coach, I don't think Matt LaFleur is an advantage over Sean Payton, and then certainly the offensive line. I think Bo Nix has the advantage right now. It is interesting, the Packers, who have been just rotating and trying to figure out what is our best 5, and everyone is changing positions all the time. And then obviously they have that injury where they lose Elton Jenkins, their center. It has allowed them to kind of settle into who they think their 5 is. Now they have their rookie, Anthony Belton, at right guard right now. They have last year's first-round pick, Jordan Morgan's just benched. He doesn't play anymore. They're no longer rotating. It seemed like they played pretty well overall last week, but it is a real test for that offensive line this week against Vance Joseph and the players up front and the types of pressures that they want to give. And so if you're looking for an advantage for the Broncos, I think that's it right there to test these young players for the Packers. I mean, they're not playing any of their first-round picks right now. Matthew Golden and Jordan Morgan. No wonder they felt okay trading away picks for Micah Parsons. You know what you're getting in Micah Parsons. You never know what you're going to get out of your first-round picks.
And I think the biggest bonus of not knowing what they get back, I think all of my fellow ACLians, everybody who's ever dealt with it, are pouring through the data right now, trying to find what did Christian Watson do? What was the exact rehab format? Because coming back, he's looked great. He's looked explosive.
Can I give you the numbers? It's 452 yards and 7 touchdowns. It's just preposterous. How many games does he play?
Not that many, right? Week 9? Was that the return?
It's 7 games there. I mean, that is an outrageous total for 7 games.
And so, you hope to see that. And again, I love CJ GJ showed a little bit of wear on the tire trying to chase Christian Watson across the field. The secondary a little bit better in this one. And they actually have a pass rush, unlike the Chicago Bears do. And so both of these pass rushes kind of marquee in this. And I know I got on Sean Payton for hiding Bo Nix a little bit. That's the game type I think that's involved here, where all of these Broncos screens that they have been running constantly, like it's like, why are we doing this? Go down the field. You can kind of not eliminate Micah Parsons in there, but provide that little bit of hesitation for both Parsons and Gary and this very active front seven. Who we saw that hit on Kyle Monungai where paint's flying off. They're triggering so early, and I think that's when Sean Payton with his the bifocals and the big play sheet, like the screens are big in this one. I lean Broncos in a rock fight. If it's a rock fight, I'm taking the 2025 Broncos.
See, I love that. I love that point you made about the screens because for the listeners, it is such a timing and math play, right? Because you are timing not only the screen to really pop loose right when the pass rusher is beyond the point of no turning back and flipping his body around and then containing that player in the flat, right? Or in the tunnel if you're running an inside screen. What you're also doing is you're timing the cadence. You're making them think that you're going to run a longer developing play, but you're disguising it in order to bait the pass rush into coming at you and then dumping the ball off. Sean Payton designs those. It's like him and Andy Reid. Those guys design those types of screens, the timing screens that really mess with the defensive end's mind and a pass rusher's mind better than anybody else I think that we've ever really seen. And I think that I love that you brought that up, Patrick, because I think that does become such a massive factor in this game. And then it's going to ask Jeff Hafley to bring his DBs down a little bit further. And while Keyshawn Nixon and company have played great, you also see just as many shots of Matt LaFleur screaming at him on the sideline, right? So this game, I think, is going to be such a interesting, like, bait and switch kind of mind game between.
Well, and Quay Walker is back, and Quay Walker will do one thing: he'll fly around, but sometimes it's like not in the right direction. Edgerrin Cooper, I mean, he's a perfect football player, and he would be the perfect guy to help stop.
I love him.
These screens, and both these running games have been uneven throughout the course of the season, and both are feeling better, I think, about themselves right now than they have for most of the season. I thought RJ Harvey ran awesome last week, and granted, it was against the Raiders, but I think he's just sort of running with a little more confidence in general. And then Josh Jacobs had his big moments last week. And it's a brutal stretch run for Denver because, they're going for the 1 seed. Absolutely. But they also are playing the Packers, the Jags, they're in Kansas City, and the Chargers. So every week they are in one of these games in our first block. And you say Bo Nix is playing, what did you say?
Better.
He is playing better. I thought he played really well against the Chiefs. I do think there's going to be moments in this stretch run where it needs to be on Bo a little bit more in a way that it hasn't needed to be so far.
I would like to release a quick statement.
Oh, wow.
Okay, here we go.
On the See You Next Tuesday show, I referred to the actor who Bo Nix most resembles as William Dafoe. What I should have said instead was Willem Dafoe. That's on me, and I take full responsibility for my act.
Wow. Well, I corrected it in the moment, just subtly, when I called out what a handsome man
as you do.
Willem Dafoe is.
He is, and a great villain. As a lot of you get in a lot of situations in these films where you get a charismatic villain, and you have people saying wild stuff like Killmonger was right. Well, Willem Dafoe. A good spot. People don't miss the point. Let's get on a Sunday night football.
People love Luigi.
They do. Me especially. Sunday night football. Minnesota at Dallas. The 5.5-point favorite. Dallas Cowboys. Taking on 9. Who looked great, Gregg Rosenthal. The over-under is 47.5. It is Sunday night football. So you get Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on the call. How good does J.J. McCarthy look against this Cowboys defense that has made some people look pretty good in 2025?
I think he'll look better than he did before he sat that game out, because last week did feel like a step forward. I went to watch that back with a skeptical eye. It didn't have a ton of reps in terms of like just dropbacks. That first drive was perfect. He's hitting his first reads a lot, but there were a couple plays later where he gets to the second or third read. There were a couple really nice deep outs. There were virtually no mistakes at all, and he did seem a little quicker to just try to pick up a couple yards or take like a lesser sack in the game. And so if they can get that opening script, obviously, as on the money as they did against the Commanders, he's not going to be the deciding factor in this game. And then, you just hope like the rest of his teammates, which are a great like set of
Great team.
teammates.
Yeah.
Like they had their offensive line completely back. I think that was a huge part of
They
it.
ran the ball great.
They ran the ball great.
Yeah.
It's an easy matchup. I get it, but that one performance did give me some optimism for the stretch run that he can just normalize into like a normal quarterback who won't prevent you from playing like a competitive game, which is how he was playing before.
We saw the vision. They brought in Jordan Mason to help complement Aaron Jones in a really natural way, and you saw what it was supposed to look like, and you understood like the theory behind it. And really, I think last week, and it's been in spurts and fits, right? But especially at the beginning of the year, and then all the quarterback drama happens. Last week, you really saw what this thing is, how this really can help J.J. McCarthy. That was what Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah intended when they made these decisions, was that, yes, we are admitting we have to have a great system and a great supporting cast around this quarterback as he grows up as a human being and also in the National Football League. And so I think that you saw, yes, it's the Commanders, and yes, this was a weird game and a sad one for the Commanders as well, but you're really seeing these, like, putting the blueprint on paper games are really important for a football team, and they're every single one of them is important for J.J. McCarthy.
I think the blueprint that we've seen for so long that did return for the Minnesota Vikings was AVG getting a tipped interception out on the edge. Harrison Smith extending his active NFL lead in terms of career players, in terms of interceptions. But the bit of the outlier against this Commanders defense, which was faulting, and I know that they had Daron Payne back in this game, but the interior pressure is a real issue for J.J. McCarthy when he can't get that full big stride into the throws. And Quinnen Williams has changed the interior situation in Dallas, where it makes me worried for this whole ebb and flow and roller coaster J.J. McCarthy discussion nationally, that we may be
Sunday night. I mean, that step forward was like a nice little step. It's not going to mean anything if he has like a bad quarter and a half. And we've seen rookies in a tightly managed game like survive well for 1 week. That the test is going to be this next month. But I think as we saw, against the Lions, the Cowboys defense like still will have holes in the back end. Deron Bland's a good player. He has given up the fourth most yards
linebackers
in coverage in the NFL. Trevon Diggs, like, I don't know if he's gonna return or not. I thought it was interesting that Brian Schottenheimer said that we need to see Trevon Diggs do everything the right way as he's coming back. So it's just weird public back and forth between the team and Diggs. And I'm not buying in that the Dallas defense is suddenly like a top 10 defense.
No, but I love their front now. I do. I mean, I loved it with Micah Parsons on it too. I keep spraying at you. I'm sorry, Greg.
Did not notice.
I love.
Jourdan tells on herself for no reason all the time.
I'm so sorry. It's an audio medium. No one would have seen it.
Nobody would have known.
Nobody would have known. I love their front. I love Quinnen Williams. He's playing honestly with so much joy too. It's like he's getting to show the world what we've always known he's capable of doing, and kind of out of a sad rebuild place once again. And I really like this defensive front. The back seven I don't trust one bit. Some of it's feast or famine, and other parts of it just have fundamental issues and some tackling issues. And
they're starving.
And there's a lot of famine in there. But I do really like how they've been shaping this front, and they're attacking the ball. Guys like Sam Williams making plays, and Quinnen Williams having like the best month and a half of his career to this point. It's special to watch.
And that's the side of the ball to me that will be interesting. This is a good Sunday night game despite the Vikings record, because I think they are about the perfect spoiler down the stretch of any team. But the other side of the ball is where it really gets cooking. Like Dak Prescott versus Flores, and this young offensive line for the Cowboys, which has mostly been good and getting better, trying to figure out everything that they send at it. And
Tylers.
Yeah, all the Tylers. We got the Booker. We got Tyler Smith. Actually, we don't have Tyler Guyton, so we don't have all the Tylers.
No. But we have multiple Tylers.
2/3 of the Tylers. And Dak coming off a game where like he was up for the fight. We'll see about CeeDee Lamb's status this week. But that Vikings defense on turf and everything, like, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to this.
You know what? And we already got through the first George Pickens crash out of the year, and so we're good, right? It'll be great.
Yeah, the rough Pickens game being cheerled from the booth on Prime.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started on that.
I'm
wondering what George did
That was crap.
to Herbie specifically.
I miss that because Herb Street is white noise to me, and I just try to block it out. Go to the radio if you can. But it caused 10 days of conversation of like, this kind of, can George Pickens be trusted with a long-term contract?
Yes.
Does he give the great effort?
Yes, he can. I'll answer it for you. Yes, he can.
Okay, he didn't battle for a couple of those balls. Multiple things can be true.
Uh-huh.
George Pickens, since he came in the league, does have more reps where he did not give great effort than almost any wide receiver since he's entered the league. Like, that was a thing on tape in Pittsburgh, which is crazy because there's so many other snaps, and obviously he's been incredible all season where he gives somehow like more effort than anyone else on the field. So that does just add a little bit of context.
And also that who you're who you're paying. Like I don't think it should affect his conversation about his contract at all.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen what the plays that this guy has been making?
I mean, he's
and by the way, you've got the right quarterback, you've got the right receivers room. Him and CD seem to get along really well. And you've got the right coach. That is like Schottenheimer. I would trust to handle whatever comes up. Honestly.
And this is a perfect matchup too, because that's the Vikings' weakness too. Is that second cornerback spot? Whoever is out there, like they got Byron Murphy, but they can get picked on a little bit on the outside. They're not a big group. Brian Flores likes some like small and feisty. Before we take a break, though, I did want to, close the circle here on George Pickens, who likes to wear the shiesty,
Okay.
The face covering, popular. And so
popular.
Brian Schottenheimer's been doing it. And you might have seen that in Hard Knocks this week where Dak actually gave Schottenheimer a shiesty, and then Schottenheimer spoke about it actually to the media this week.
I didn't really like it. I couldn't breathe. Yeah, I don't know why those guys like it so much, but I thought, hey, this is the cool thing going on. Let me try it. It's kind of like the 6'7" thing a few weeks ago. I'm a hip guy, but I didn't really like it. It didn't stay on very long.
America's cool dad, Brian Schottenheimer.
I'm like regular moms. I'm a cool mom.
I misnamed him earlier when we were coming into the studio, and I called him Jason Garrett, and it made me think. He kind of is like just a cooler Jason Garrett, but he's like an evolved, cooler dad, Jason Garrett.
David Duchovny.
I think he's better, though. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side with the game I really want to talk about. It's Phillip Rivers coming back to the NFL. Back on NFL Daily, and we've hit Phillip Rivers in each show this week.
Understandably.
We're going to hit Phillip Rivers in each show the rest of the season. We can just call this Phillip Rivers Daily forevermore. This is a gift.
Hopefully the Seattle Seahawks don't hit Phillip Rivers that much. The Indianapolis Colts, yes, and 44-year-old Phillip Rivers at the Seattle Seahawks, who are favored by 14 points. The over-under is 42.5. Andrew Catalan, the best, Charles Davis, and Jason McCourty, they're on the call where maybe Phillip Rivers, maybe Tyler Warren, maybe somebody's taking snaps for the Indianapolis Colts against the best defense in the NFL. Jourdan, how does it go?
I mean, I feel like we just have to start out right away listening to Phillip Rivers, to be honest. There's only one way to start out this Phillip Rivers game, and that is by listening to Phillip Rivers' first comments to the Indianapolis media.
I've tried to make this as simple as I can. I'll try not to get emotional, actually, you asking that. As simple as can be is a coach that I love and an organization that I really enjoyed being with. Mr. Irsay believing in me in that year in 2020 when it didn't go so good in 2019. And the teammates that I were able to play with, 14 of them are still here. Training room's the same. PR guys are the same. Equipment room's the same. And they wanted me.
I'm all the way freaking in. You know me, earnest comments, I'm in.
He is obviously overwhelmed. Like, we'll see what the emotions are like if Byron Murphy is like cracking him in the back, in the first quarter of that game.
Mic'd up.
We actually don't know if Phillip Rivers is even playing. I'm assuming this on some level, and I shouldn't We don't know if Riley Leonard is available. We do know that Brett Rippon was signed to the active roster on Wednesday, but they would need 2 active quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers, for now, is on the practice squad. One of my favorite lines was in the ESPN story by Stephen Holder, who does a good job covering the team. And he said, according to sources, Rivers' workout was impressive. He threw the ball well, but needs to improve his conditioning, according to source. How that impacts his ability to play this week is unclear. Like, yeah. But he knows the offense. He was running it as a high school coach for his kid. It was Shane Steichen's offense, Patrick.
And so there's a couple of ways to look at that.
Yeah.
Like, man, like this offense is, these high schoolers are getting at it, or the Colts are running a high school offense.
Well, I think they probably...
There was a slimmer...
I think they
slim
simplified it. I mean, it's been working for both. They've been both, this is one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. You can say what you want, Patrick.
No,
it's working.
And I love looking back at this 2020 video that we've shown a couple times on Fantasy Live, like Nyheim Hines, T.Y. Hilton. I think Trey Burton gets a reception coming up here next if you're watching us on YouTube, where I'm glad he's back. You hear the way that Chuck Amato got him at NC State when the Titan Tigers missed out on this quarterback that they didn't want to play quarterback. The emotion there, he clearly loves the game. Maybe a little too much. Hopefully Phil stays healthy.
He even said he was like happy to have a real press conference and that it wasn't in a Zoom. That's how he kicked it all off. He just loves ball. And I like the people who are like, oh, and he's given up 5 years. He's going to have to wait 5 more years of Hall of Fame eligibility. You think Phillip Rivers cares about that?
He's like, I just love ball, man. He wants to be out there so bad. I love this game and all of this. We couldn't have invented a Mad Lib such as this, right? And this really will be a game for everybody. It will be a game for the emotional poets of the world who are going in and watching Phillip Rivers, and it's basically all heart and desperation to save the Indianapolis Colts season, going up against one of the most well-built, complete, aggressive, incredible, complete football teams in the NFL that we've seen in a while in the Seattle Seahawks. And so it's like when an audacious force meets an immovable object, right? And I cannot wait for this.
I'm gonna be real. I'd rather be against the Titans.
I know.
Yeah.
I want to ease them in. I wanna ease
Just
them. But how
give me like a Titans, Saints. We'll throw the Jaguars in for some fun, maybe, and then build up to the Seahawks at the end.
But with Phillip Rivers, he probably wouldn't want it any other way, Greg, to be honest.
Well,
but he might change his tune again when the
he'd want like a game against the Giants on Monday night where Eli is calling the game and he can make his a Hall of Fame case. Because like waiting 5 years to give one speech is one thing, but we're going to see him for the next 3 weeks. We get a whole lot of Phillip Rivers with a chance to remember. Well, again.
The problem is,
fingers crossed.
we hope.
Yeah, I know that.
I got 11 years until I'm 44. I don't even want to know what my body's gonna feel like then.
I follow Theo Ash on Twitter, and he pointed out just the ages of some notable NFL players that are 44, like former ones, like Wes Welker is 44 years old. He also was pointed out this week. Todd Gurley is 31 years old. If you're just thinking of the comparison. I hate it. I hate that it's this matchup because the rest of the Colts are not playing well right now. It should be pointed out. You know how many quarterback hits and sacks combined they had last week? 0. You know how much like Jonathan Taylor has done the last couple of weeks? Not a lot for Jonathan Taylor. Like the offensive line in general has given up a lot of pressure up the middle lately. The last 2 weeks on offense, actually really on the line play for both sides, has been a little concerning. And now you got to play a team in Seattle that's healthier than they've been all season. They got Julian Love back last week at safety. They got Jourdan Reed back last week to add to that defensive line mix. It's a tough one.
And shout out to Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate Nick Emenwari, because first of all, he doesn't come off the field. And when you have to, what quite obviously will be, lean on a lot of scheme and a lot of, attempting to force mismatches for Phillip Rivers. The Phillip Rivers at 44 years old off of the high school football field sideline does not have to come in and play as much hero ball in this first one out. Nick Emenwari is a personnel neutralizer. And I remember sitting back here a year ago, Greg, we were talking with Nate Tice about what the future of some of these defenses will look like and the future of what defenses having another advantage again against offenses will look like. And Nick Emenwari is that player. And all of this to say, Nick Emenwari is also 21 years old. which makes him over one Nick Emenwari younger than the 44-year-old Phillip Rivers. And in fact, Nick Emenwari was born on February 7th, 2004, just a few weeks before Phillip Rivers was drafted by the New York Giants and then traded to San Diego for Eli Manning.
And
it makes me feel a certain way.
And I think multiple years after Phillip Rivers' firstborn came into this world, because he was a father when he got drafted.
Yes, and he will, if he plays, he will be a grandfather that is playing in another Rivers number, which is, of course, 17, which was Daniel Jones's number, which Phillip Rivers is now going to wear if he gets into this game. It's also been 17 years since he played in the AFC Championship game on a torn ACL. His 44 is not your 44 if you're like a on the pickleball circuit, or in Gregg's, if you're playing a real sport like tennis.
Hey, now.
His 44 is a little bit different because he's been getting smashed by people. So good luck to Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis.
I love that this next game is announced by Drew Brees, the man that he replaced.
Yep.
In New Orleans. And Eric asks, what's the first play you want to see the Colts run on Sunday? Like a classic Rivers play. I mean, it's just simple. It's a straight drop back, and it's him with that intermediate throw over the middle that, like, Aaron Rodgers isn't making that throw ever,
No.
but that is the typical Phillip Rivers timing throw. It's probably to Michael Pittman for about 18 yards.
And
that's it.
And we can basically guarantee that Rivers will have a snap with the Colts down 6 in the fourth quarter. with
That would be a great result.
To go.
Just cover the 14. I'm taking that as a victory.
Can you guys imagine being Brett Rippon over the years? And some of these teams have completely altered their franchises at the looming threat of Brett Rippon.
It's like,
and I love that guy. He's very nice. But can you imagine?
He's probably self-aware enough to be excited he's getting an active roster check this week.
yeah. And that's what he gets for a throttling of Troy University back when he was playing for the Broncos.
Wow.
The Tennessee Titans, fresh off of lighting up the Browns defense in week 14, going on the road at the San Francisco 49ers. It is the aforementioned Drew Brees and Adam Amin on a call. The Niners are favored by 12.5 points. Clearly, Gregg, the Titans didn't move the needle that much last week. Do you feel that number is a bit too much?
No, because I think the 49ers offense, coming off a week off, weirdly healthier right now than they have been all season. Not just because they had the bye. They were actually healthier in that week before they got the bye against Cleveland on both sides of the ball than they really had been all year. And you're not getting Fred Warner and Nick Bosa back, but this defense is playing with a lot of aggression. You're getting production out of Cleveland Farrell, getting production out of Keon White. And it's not about, that number's not about the defense. It's about the offense ready to turn into a wagon against a team that's not complete. And I thought Purdy played great in that Browns game. That one really rewarded a rewatch because the numbers don't pop out. And he had 5 or 6 just classic sort of very difficult Purdy anticipation throws throughout that game, made a couple great plays, had a couple great decisions where he just avoided making the big mistake. And it just made me feel better about what's to come. And I think what's to come here is, a top 8 offense the rest of the way. So I think they'll put it on the Titans.
Yeah, this is the game we actually wish we could give to Phillip Rivers
to
onboard up, because this is exactly the type of game. And I don't want to demean the Titans. They are going to go through a massive organizational change here in the next couple of months. And so it is what it is at this point. But the 49ers basically have to take this game and use it as the wind up for the rest of their sprint, and their season, their remaining schedule gets really, really fun for us. They get the Colts, we hope, with an intact Phillip Rivers.
Monday Night Football.
They get the Bears with NFC stakes that will be significant by that point. And then they get the Seahawks to close the season, and that will probably have massive playoff implications due to the fact that the Seahawks lost to the 49ers early in the year, and Seattle also has the Rams one more time and already lost to the Rams once. So this is going to be an absolute, launching, or should be. They should use it as this and attack as such, a launch point to really barrel headfirst into the rest of their schedule.
People sleeping, I think, on the 49ers as a real deal team. If they were in the AFC, I would consider them a Super Bowl contender. I don't quite in the NFC. Do you think that's too high?
What AFC division are the 49ers going in? I want to play this hypothetical all the way out. So let's trade like the Chargers for the 49ers.
Sure. That's a good one.
Yeah.
They're actually right around, like, if you kind of look where they are, for instance, in like DVOA, they're like ahead of the Chargers, the Patriots, like the Bucks. They're right next to the Eagles. Like, that all sounds about right to me. I think that's where they're at. The problem is, yeah, they're with the Rams, Seahawks, Packers. I think it's going to be tough to get through that tournament. So I'm putting them, put them in the AFC West as a wild card.
It's
I think they could
decided.
win that tournament.
Yeah, and they get an opportunity for a layup, before that tournament, in the stretch run where if you just watch the one game, you saw Cam Ward and Tony Pollard and this Titans offense, like, you start to believe that they limit Myles Garrett to 1 sack, and I'm wondering if the offensive, if the game plan was built around that, and it led to the best offensive output for the Tennessee Titans, who not just have the chance to win the first 2-game win streak this season. This will be the first 2-game win streak for the Titans since 2022.
Holy
Oh,
cow.
2022. So
God.
Cam, it's not you. This is franchise related. That's how they were in the position to draft you.
Girl, you're in danger.
But hey, the pass rush of the 49ers it's not even the Browns.
That's almost as impressive, or in the wrong way, as the Lions. I think haven't lost how many? 2 straight in 3 years, something like that. That is horrifying. What a sad franchise. Before we move from this game, I did want to just mention the news, because we never hit it on the show. The reports that Brandon Ayuk is not expected to play this season,
Mhm.
and it sounds like he's just going to be on the trade block this offseason. That the relationship, there's been a lot of reporting out there locally, Athletic, everything is maybe beyond repair, and weird statements publicly, and just that would wrap up one of the strangest contract negotiation extension situations of all time. That they didn't like each other. We've been over it before. Like, that there was a lot of consternation. They gave him the contract, then he gets hurt and never ends up playing, and they never made that trade. So he'll be an interesting person to track this offseason, because I think there'll be plenty of trade interest in him.
DJ Moore to the 49ers?
It's an interesting
Perhaps.
trade.
Yeah.
Swap him.
How different things could have been if they'd have blocked it correctly in the final drive of the Super Bowl and got Brandon Ayuk, who was wide open, and then maybe offered him a deal, or maybe an invite to Christian McCaffrey's wedding.
Or just taking that offer from the Steelers when they thought
Or
they were getting
maybe Kyle Shanahan just is surfing that morning and doesn't march into John Lynch's office and say, we actually have to get this done, even though you guys want to trade him.
So many what ifs.
The waves were probably good that day, Kyle.
What ifs for fans of a team in purple in the AFC, because on Monday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins are on the road at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the high-flying, high-octane Steelers, where Aaron Rodgers is running all over folks and throwing deep passes for the first time in several weeks. The Steelers favored by 3 in this one. The over-under is 42.5. It is Monday night, so it's Joe and Troy on the call. The path is a little more constricted, Jourdan. But do the Dolphins have a chance to win this game specifically on Monday night?
I think Miami wins this game. And you guys know me. I hate making predictions. It makes my skin crawl. But I do think that they win this game. This run game is all the way back. And Devon Chain is going to play, according to Mike McDaniel. And between offensive line coach Butch Berry and tight ends coach John Embry, who is a legend, if you know, you know, they have really got that entire collective between offensive linemen, tight ends, and running backs cooking in a way that is what we had hoped. This is what we were promised with Mike McDaniel when he first came into the league. It is their blocking combinations. It is some of the personnel decisions that they've made. Aaron Brewer at center really making the entire engine run up front and doing so without regard for human life on the other side. And the combination at tight end of Darren Waller and Greg Dulcich, it works so well because both of these guys can do so many different things. And Mike McDaniel is not just using them in the intermediate. He's using them on a bunch of different types of leverage blocking. He's using them to create explosive plays, whether for those players or for other players. And that is still where the Steelers, as well as they can play when their defense plays well, they have still been quite explosive to the explosive play, quite susceptible to the explosive play.
Oh, yeah.
And particularly against a team that uses a lot of interesting blocking structure and pre-snap misdirection.
I think they're.
I really said that cleanly. Yeah,
It was great. I
didn't spit, so
It was as effective as the Steelers' defense against explosive plays.
wow.
No, I think they're second last. You said you liked it. When the inner mass comes out. I think they're second worst in the league behind the Raiders, and they are bad. The matchup is bad for
Yeah.
the Steelers, and he's putting out just like I don't even know what's going on these running plays, but a lot's going on.
Yeah.
He's getting fancy with it. I don't trust them. I don't trust the Steelers either, especially in a game like they're quote unquote supposed to win as a slight favorite. But they've won 4 straight games in maybe the worst month of Tua Tagovailoa's career. It's kind of amazing to me how poorly Tua Tagovailoa is playing overall, and that's just expected. And he's actually not getting any grief for it. He's been a good quarterback since Mike McDaniel got there in terms of when he's on the field and efficient. Obviously, like there's some weaknesses to his game. And they're not that now. And they've had 2 really great games out of the division. In the division, they also had 2 games where it came down to the last play against like the Saints and the Commanders. So I don't trust them overall, but they're getting closer to being like a relatively complete average team because the defense is solid.
Mhm.
The running game is legit good. If Tua starts playing better, Patrick, I don't think they can win out. There's a reason they have a less than 1% chance to make the playoffs, and the Chiefs actually have like a 12-15 with the exact same record. The schedule doesn't help, and the team has its problems. But if Tua could just play better, they are quite dangerous.
Yeah, significantly. I would say in this game, like if you get a good Tua game, you tell me you get a quality Tua Tagovailoa game, like one of his best of 2025. I'm with Jourdan. I've got the Miami Dolphins. My inherent biases against the Steelers in this situation, notwithstanding, just because of the way that they've had improvement in the places that they've needed to. And I understand the schedule is a big part of the 2025 season, but we talked about Jonas Savaiinaea, right, at guard, the rookie guard, and having all those difficulties. His improvement has coincided with the improvement in the run game and the way that Mike McDaniel is able to reshape the line of scrimmage, kind of choose where the line of scrimmage is ultimately going to be on the field in any given play, where Devon Achane gets a chance to have these like on-field punt returns going like taking advantage of defenses that can be a little aggressive, and that's this Pittsburgh Steelers group where they were releasing guys to grass last week, looking like they did at the start of the season. And the one game Rodgers blip, that's a one game Rodgers blip.
Maybe
that's against the team.
I would tend to agree.
Pass rush, Greg. No pass rush whatsoever in that game against the Steelers.
Oh, I don't think it was about like the lack of pass rush or not. He just was on one. It reminded me a little bit like I've heard like Serena Williams talk about this or Federer. Like when you're an all-time great and you hit your 40s or whatever, like sometimes you do just have it for a day, but you just don't like. Sometimes you show up and it's just not there for you. And he had it. He was outstanding in that game. If he plays like that, they were not high percentage throws, but he was on one. Then their upside is high. I tend to agree that it's a one game blip, but got it. Like I'm more curious to watch them play offensive football this week after that performance by him than I was before. That's for sure. Maybe he can back it up.
Okay, Greg's excited.
I'm not excited.
Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers.
Monday
Night Football.
Arthur Smith wishes he was moving gaps around like this run game in Miami's doing. Did you guys see the play where there were 3 skill players, including both tight ends, lined up in a stack next to the quarterback with the running back on the other side, and then there was a motion? So not only with the motion, he's changing the gap. I love what you said about reshaping the line of scrimmage, Patrick, because not only does the motion change the gap that the running back's supposed to run through to a different one for the defense, but then you don't know what it's actually going to be because all 3 of those players are splitting off in different directions, and one of them's getting the ball. And I squealed. I made noises.
Loves ball. Loves ball. Back to being an offensive genius when it works. But when it doesn't,
good for him.
It can get a little sideways.
I always believed.
Talk about up and down changes. There's the quantum superposition that is the Carolina Panthers. They can be great. They cannot be. One of those teams they have not been great against, Greg, is the New Orleans Saints. They are 2.5-point favorites on the road against the quarterback rushing machine. Like it was Cameron Jarrell Newton, a.k.a. Tyler Shuck, against the Bucs on Sunday. The over-under is 40.5. Jason Benetti and RG3 on the call in this one.
What?
Which version of the Panthers do we get, Greg?
That's new. We get the version that should win a game. You can't get swept by the Saints. That's just unserious. And still be in the playoff mix, because they would be, even whether they win this game or not. This is kind of where it gets real. That okay, you're hitting the stretch run, you're hitting games that you have to win, that you are expected to win against the Saints because, yeah, getting swept by them would be a little bit embarrassing.
After this game, and they can't look ahead of this game, obviously, but after this game, they've got Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks.
Yeah.
And all of them will have playoff implications. So you better put your best foot forward and your best tape out in this game regardless.
Right. If you lose this game, they might not all
Yeah.
have playoff implications.
Yeah.
You might be done by week 18.
I'll put you guys on a theory because folks have wondered, what is this about these Carolina Panthers? I think, what if it's game plan related? What if when there's this opponent that doesn't see a lot of Carolina Panthers, Dave Canales going in to the tape room, looking at the specific aspects where you can attack defenses on specific plays. There's the mic'd up clip of Rico Dowdle knowing exactly where the rush and the defenders in the zone were going to be and taking a screen to the house where they go up against the Saints team where there's not going to be any surprises. Both franchises intimately aware of others' personnel.
You say he's bored.
I just think maybe sometimes Dave Canales, Greg likes to spice it up.
He needs a project.
Go on maybe it's not all player related. Maybe this is the head coach and play caller.
Wow.
Sometimes needing a little bit of a change.
I do think they just have like a slimmer path to the way they win. It's a lot of running on downs where you don't expect them to run, which is, I think, great. You got to pull that off. Like, you got to hit your 3rd and 4 runs. I'm always surprised by them running in those situations. And yeah, it didn't work. And if you're only counting on Bryce lately to just hit these big plays, but you're only throwing the ball 20 to 25 plays, like those plays change the game. And he hits 2 long 4th downs on the last one. Yeah, I'm curious. It is a good test for Canales' adjustments. I mean, you lose by 10 points to Tyler Shuck a couple weeks ago, and you're playing a defense that I know you, Jourdan, have noticed statistically is now, solidly in the middle of the NFL. Maybe even like a little better than the middle of the NFL when you add up all the numbers. And I went to check because I was like, okay, is this just like a schedule thing? Actually, no. They've played a very difficult schedule of offenses. If anything, it's more impressive that they're a little better than average in general. So the Staley-sance, much delayed. It's happening.
Well, I've been noticing this. I know our friends over at the Saints Block Party have also been noticing this improvement. Yeah, they're right at the middle, essentially, a little bit higher than the middle in terms of points per game, in terms of yards per game, in terms of opponent 3rd down conversion rate. I know we all saw the graphic on the broadcast, right? I think that there's something there. And when you have that improvement and you're lifting the floor of one side of the football, right? And then you're also getting this like glimmer of hope with the quarterback play, this team can be dangerous. And that's why I love that the Panthers get their bye week when they did, right? I love that because this is when we're going to really see, okay, Dave Canales, like what are your bye week adjustments when you know the stakes? You're in the race, man. Like, the stakes are so high. Like, it's time to show your work. And Bryce Young, if he could play even a little less than how well he played in that Rams game, they will be fine.
And just for some context, they lost to the Saints. It was longer ago than I remembered. It was November 9th. It was week 10. The Saints doubled them up in total yardage plus. It was 388 to 175. It was, watching it, as big of a blowout as a 17-7 game can be. The Saints offense obviously has its limitations. Like, they weren't going to put on a lot of points, but they controlled that game. So revenge time. Show us something.
And that was in Charlotte as well. And I'm reminded of the early, I think it was week 1 last year, before the benching, before the Dalton conversation and all that, where Bryce and the offense looked miserable in New Orleans in the Superdome. It's revenge against that as well.
And
Vibes revenge game.
And the vibes probably will be bad in New Orleans. I have an eye on how many people are going to be in the crowd for these final few Saints games. They have created, through terrible management, apathy among one of the best fan bases in the entire NFL. The Pelicans fan base, it's like another level. They're literally allowing people to go free to games, and it's half empty. But I think the Benson family might notice that. And so these games are big, I believe, because you get blown out at home a couple times with empty fans. Like, that catches the attention.
Empty fans. I like how you said that, because you meant empty seats, but empty fans is probably how they're feeling.
Yeah, that's it. It's poetic.
We'll try to add a little poetry to all the early games. That's going to be coming up in your feed. We flipped it around. So stay tuned right here. We'll be back for the rest of the preview. Welcome to NFL Daily, where we love a good Bills-Patriots rivalry week. I'm Gregg Rosenthal here in the Chris Wesleyan podcast studio. I'm back. We were just here talking about all the late games. Now it's a good early slate with Jourdan Rodrigue and Patrick Claybon. And yes, I was going to say everything old is new again in terms of Bills-Patriots rivals, but they really, over the years, weren't good at the same time. The Bills kind of helped knock out the end of the Patriots' reign in terms of winning the AFC East over and over again. The most embarrassing game, I believe, in Bill Belichick's history, not getting a single stop in a playoff game against Josh Allen.
NFL game. Most embarrassing NFL game.
Well, I think, he's not taking
Your thoughts on the North Carolina Tar Heels, Greg?
I mean, I would not have guessed it would go that bad. I'm surprised they're not just eating the money and saying goodbye to Bill Belichick, right? It's not going to get better, I don't think. It's not going to get better.
Bill Belichick, it's not going to get better. Gregg Rosenthal.
Blurb it.
Better news for the New England Patriots. They are not favored. So nobody believes in you, and you can summon your belief and your anger at the folks in Vegas. The Bills, a 1.5-point favorite on the road at your New England Patriots, Greg. The over-under is 50.5. Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt on the call. The deep passing game has been great for Drake May. How does he take advantage of the Buffalo secondary?
That's the matchup there, because that strength has to be so strong it overwhelms all the other weird parts of this Patriots team that are hard to understand. Yeah, I don't understand this team. I mean, I don't believe in them either. I'm going to pick the Bills in this game. You have to pick a game. Doesn't it seem more likely that these two teams would split? And especially coming off how the Bills have played lately, it just makes sense in the story of this season that the Bills make this division race a little closer down the stretch and win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Bills, though, they're so easy to believe in when you see, especially the middle to later parts of last week's game. And then they're so easy to doubt when you see some of the things that set up a week ago before that game, and some of the issues getting off the field on third down, and some of the defensive problems that keep popping up from time to time, some of the discombobulation at receiver, and it's basically like a whack-a-mole team where you're going to have at least one of these problems pop up in any one game. Can Josh Allen, I guess, mask all of it enough? And how early do you press the button, to your point?
And I know schedule's part of it, but sometimes we talk about the Bills like they're the Chiefs or the Bengals or the Ravens, all these teams with great quarterbacks and losing records.
No.
The Bills are 9-4.
Good football team.
Right. The Bills are 9-4, and I'm just going to throw out a hot take for you guys.
Oh.
Okay.
If you had to pick an AFC team right now, pick your Super Bowl team right now, who's your pick? I think I would take the Bills. That's the hot take part of it. If I had to pick one. Just because I don't know who else to pick. Pick one.
Right now?
You have to pick one.
You know what? I would take the Bills.
Oh my gosh, I don't want two of us. That's too much.
Because of Josh Allen.
Right now, I am taking the Houston Texans.
Okay.
And that defense and that pass rush, because it seems like a common issue for these AFC contenders is either Bosa's injury, the Chiefs kind of struggling to get pressure late. I'll take defense. Why not throw the Josh Hines Allen and the Jacksonville Jaguars?
No, I don't think there is a wrong pick. To me, it's their strengths, which is Josh Allen, an offensive line, and a running game, and a history of a defense that can at least game plan and figure some things out, although they haven't done it very well in the playoffs. Gives them as good a fighting chance as anyone, and yet I wouldn't give anyone a better chance than 20%. It just seems too wide.
No, and I think that's a good caveat to include there too. It's you've seen what they can do and what they are capable of. That's a good point about being a good matchup team. We are in the stretch run, but we have not gotten to the point where you can purely play matchup football on defense. You maybe can do it. You can't just Jonathan Gannon it the entire time. But when you do get to the postseason, Sean McDermott, we've seen it. We've seen adjustments after the bye. We see adjustments have to have. He can play matchup football. It's just they're just not quite there yet where they can do that the way that you would want to and need to in the postseason.
It'll be interesting. Drake May and the Patriots, what do they look like coming off their bye? They have a
Great time
couple,
to have a bye. Oh my God.
key injuries. Like maybe, yeah, but they were also rolling, and they've had a little time to think about it. Not that
He doesn't dare get his hopes up, Patrick.
no,
Actually,
I
you know
think
what?
of course I think they can win this game. I think it's basically a toss up. They're playing for the AFC East title. They literally win it this week, and Vrabel started to talk about that AFC East championship even going into the bye. He started to change his tone pretty clearly of like, now we're playing to go win like a title. It's just they're entering a different phase of the season. And I'm curious if some of their notable weaknesses can get improved, which is they're a terrible red zone team, literally the worst in the NFL on defense and pretty bad on offense. And they're a bad running team. And so this matchup particular, I want to see, can you run on this Bills defense? Because you should be able to.
And if you can't, you got serious problems because a lot of teams have this year.
And some of the teams that haven't kind of chose not to.
Yeah.
Like, oddly enough, like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Last week, that was a weird situation. The snow and everything.
Yeah, a little bit different but the Bengals did start out running the ball against the Buffalo Bills, and the pass game kind of bit them at the end, but they had the success there. The button necessarily doesn't even get pressed. The button's always on at this point. Like, it's attached to the light switch in the booth for Joe Brady when he walks in, because it's constantly on. Josh is making these adjustments while the play is happening, where as Christian Gonzalez has gotten healthier, I always say it's tough to get healthy playing football. Christian Gonzalez managed to do that. Where the separation, like Josh is having to throw these seeing eye touchdowns to Khalil Shakir. They did have a couple of plays that actually just worked, regular football plays last week, but that was against the Cincinnati Bengals, a defense that hasn't really been in a contending situation like the Patriots have all year, where I feel confident. And since we started this conversation, since these numbers were printed, Greg, the people have heard your voice.
Oh.
And now the Patriots are favored by 1.5 points in this game.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Do you know what
The lines move, Greg, because they want to.
What are they going to do with the Stephon Diggs quotes from Wednesday morning talking about how they liked being underdogs in this game? That we'll have to get a correction and
Well, yeah, they tried hard
this.
until they see the line, and now they can no
now
longer
they're
try
changing
hard.
everything.
They are
The
no
game
longer
plan
motivated.
is out the window, folks.
No Milton Williams and probably no Harold Landry, who got hurt before the bye, and they're not like a deep defensive line, and so I do think that could be a mismatch. That first game when these two teams played, Josh Allen, like Marcus Jones got him on just a great defensive play. He had a couple turnovers in that game. That kind of was the difference, and May was nails at the end, and it's a big game for the conversation.
It's huge
for both, because if there has
this is the real Rodrigue Rosenthal matchup here. The subtext of everything.
Why is that? Oh, I'm talking about Josh Allen in terms of MVP.
Oh, I thought you were talking about May Stafford.
Certainly May. I mean, to me, it's still pretty wide open that anyone that has a great month, we're winnowing out like the possible candidates. But Josh Allen, his last 2 weeks, that was as incredible a game that anyone's played all season, like from front to back in the snow, like to do that against, like, if he then goes and does this against the Patriots and has like a monster month, he's in the conversation.
I see you have your chart up.
He's in the mix.
I've got the chart up. Josh.
I don't think he's so far behind Stafford in May, especially not if he wins this game in December, that he can't make up that ground.
Well, recency bias will help with voters, but with regards to the conversation, he did have that primetime game where the Texans defense absolutely dominated the Bills in every capacity. So here he's behind Jordan Love right now. Again, Toyota-thon is on, where Jordan Love keeps scoring points.
One last thing on this game for the Bills. Kincaid was back last week, and I think it really changes their offense, because now you're splitting up the tight end reps equally between him, Knox, and Spencer Hawes, and
who's played great.
Jackson Hawes rather, and it's like a few less snaps then too for Cooks and Keon Coleman. I mean, Tyrell Shavers is now like leading. It just makes their offense, which is clearly around the run and Josh just doing Josh things, like make even more sense to have him out there.
Patrick, I have been tracking the is Gregg all the way back conversation the entire year as well. And I did just want to share with you and tens of thousands of listeners and some viewers as well, that audio medium, Gregg, that yesterday we had a meeting about some upcoming postseason tentpole events for NFL Daily, and one of them being the Super Bowl, which we're very excited about. And we were talking about getting post-game interviews and post-Super Bowl game interviews and with the winning team. And Greg brought up how it should be no problem to get Drake May.
I was just like, he'll. It's like the first time around. That's the time when it'll be easier post game to get him.
Was that a thinly veiled shot at a player who had a win in a primetime game, and it was difficult for Laura Rutledge to catch up to him?
What a segue this is.
It was not.
Look at the transition.
Because Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers are on the road at Kansas City, who is favored by 4.5. Patrick Mahomes good at post-game interviews too. Does Greg hate the quarterback of the Los Angeles Chargers?
I love Justin Herbert.
Okay, all love for
We
Justin.
are a Justin Herbert family and a Laura Rutledge family.
It wasn't his best moment. I think he
Yeah.
will admit to
Right.
that. I'm not defending that. So
Okay.
It's just I still love him.
Kevin Harlan and Trent Green get to see these two teams battle for the second time this season. KC, again, a 4.5-point favorite. The over-under is 41.5. The Chargers, with their... I need Herbo to stop protecting the ball with his mangled hand. He was able to protect it some. They're having to split carries as Omari Hampton comes back. Can they finally? We've seen several teams try to do it, come very close. Finally, put the nail in the Kansas City Chiefs. Jourdan, coming up in Week 15.
I think they have a shot, honestly. And listen, the Chiefs don't get good pressure, but you could really pressure against this offensive line. So that actually might be a hinge point. Chris Jones is coming off the best pressure game of the season in terms of getting a season high with 7 pressures. And, you know, the Chargers are probably going to be out without Trey Pipkins again. We all watched Chargers-Eagles. Greg watched it in person with his son Walker. And if you didn't watch it, but you wanted to know just exactly how bad the Eagles offense was and how many times they turned it over without even like taking a peek at the box score, all you have to do is know that Justin Herbert was pressured nearly a 70% rate and the Chargers still won the game. That's how bad the Eagles offense was on the other side. And so I feel like you're not going to get a freak game like that again. You're certainly not going to get that game from Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, as much of a slide this season as they're in, as strange as they look this season. But you might get a really solid game from the Kansas City Chiefs defense against this.
You're not going to get that pressure out of that defense, though, either.
No,
I know Karlaftis played pretty well in that game, but they've been
You certainly
poor.
won't. But I got to tell you, Greg, this Chargers offensive line is like malpractice having it out there with this. They're entering their 20th offensive line combination minus Trey Pipkins of the season.
Maybe the biggest issue is the two guys in the middle, Bradley Bozeman and Mekhi Becton, are the starters fairly well. Bozeman's not highly paid, but he was the planned starter. Becton is highly paid. And those guys, you kind of are counting on them, and they maybe are the biggest weaknesses of the group.
Yeah,
and they got to go against Chris Jones.
And considering the way things have been, but I'm also looking at the Chiefs offensive line and their protection of Patrick Mahomes. Considering the way that Khalil Mack, especially the first game, Khalil Mack was so dominant in that game where he teleported past, I believe, Taylor at that point and got to Patrick Mahomes, where it was just one of those Mahomes plays where they get yards and they make it a game where I don't feel like this version of the Chiefs would even be in that game, considering the way that it went down to the wire. And you have to be able to run the ball, I think, against the Chargers, where you look back to just that nasty, the worst Chargers game of the season on the road at Jacksonville when both Tootin and Etienne went off. Saquon in spots in SoFi Stadium on Monday night. But the Chiefs aren't a threat there at all.
And this is a better Chargers defense, I think.
Yeah.
In general, they've been aggressive since the bye, and they're healthy. It's a good defense, and I do think of how fitting it would be for all the times in the last 5 years since Justin Herbert has entered the league that the Chiefs just beat him down. Anytime Chargers fans got their hopes up, the Chiefs were there to just put them back in their place. Wouldn't it be fitting, like, if they were the team that ends it for them this season, especially thinking about, like, where they were in week 1? That really set the framework for how this Chiefs season was going to go, like these games that you expect to win and you end up losing in the end like they did in week 1. And they've come a long way. Like Justin Herbert's out there with broken body and like the wear and tear of this season really shows up with these two teams when you watch the play of them in Brazil versus now. They were so fresh and innocent, but wouldn't it be nice if old ragged Herbert is the one that takes out the Chiefs?
And you know what? I've never doubted Justin Herbert as a quarterback. I've never doubted his toughness ever. I know that was like quite the topic of conversation, his leadership, whatever, like a couple of years ago. You never, watching him play, watching him around his teammates, like you never doubt any of that. But there's something about him with Jim Harbaugh where when Jim Harbaugh does these interviews talking about Justin Herbert, he almost is like daring him to be more of a badass, right? Like he's almost like daring, like the booth was talking about some of their production meetings and the conversations that they were having with Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh was like, yeah, it's a broken hand. I once played through this, that, the other, like gruesome, horrific injuries. So basically it's like the expectation of what this team can be is raised, is my point here. And that's, I think, something that's really, really important and something culturally maybe they hadn't had until entering this season and understanding this is where we're at right now and we're going to like grit through it essentially because that's the Jim Harbaugh way.
I think kind of what puts a ceiling on like my expectations for them is the passing game and the coordinator that's making the calls.
Agree.
Where you get some familiar, you start to remember, like as Charles McDonald pointed out, it's something I lamented back in Baltimore where receivers kind of in the same place, which happened in Buffalo. It's happening now. And it's like,
it's his Roman Empire.
Like your guy is back there, with again, like the second season in a row, he's got broken bones in his left hand, and he's wearing a dinner plate, like over there, like a Mickey Mouse glove that seems like it came straight from Anaheim, and like let's have some space
Could
for
we
him to
club
show
him
that
at
cannon.
least?
I
Could
know.
we have something like more like intimidating on that? Like, could you draw like a skull and crossbones on it at least? Like, don't hit that arm.
I mean, they got Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, and Quentin Johnston on this team, and they had a combined 40 yards in that game. This is sad.
Space him out.
That is malpractice. The reason they won though is because Herbert, kind of like Mahomes, when that quick pressure was getting there, was his ability to just make free rushers miss and pick up 5 yards, 10 yards, whatever it was going to be, or just throw the ball away. And there's just something about this Chargers team, and there's something about this Chiefs team that I don't think it's going to last necessarily for years. But if this game is close in the fourth quarter, like I kind of trust that this Chargers team will find a way. And I kind of think this, ever since on the very first throw of the season, do you remember what the first Chiefs throw of the season was?
No, what was it?
It was Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball into a very brutal hit for Xavier Worthy that he couldn't come down with, and he left the game with an injury on that very play. And his inaccuracy this season, he is 27th, Patrick Mahomes, in completion percentage over expected. I don't think that's a perfect stat, but I do think they've just been a little off. Whoever's fault it was all season, even going back to that first play, that was a little off, and Worthy ended up getting hurt because of it, and now here they are just trying to stay alive.
And I think there's some matchable things that have frustrated Patrick Mahomes about what he's seeing in the defensive backfield that are reapplicable by Jesse Minter specifically. He's got that defense playing great. Dante Jackson, remember when he was in Carolina, guys? I'm sure you actually don't. Like, he's having an absolutely awesome season. They've got Tony Jefferson, the former scout, Raven scout, out there making game-changing plays, and Derwin James has, I think, been up and down, but when he turns it on, he goes. They're getting the most out of those linebackers. I just really think that the way that, it's not just that they're playing a shell against Patrick Mahomes every single game now. You saw it with the Texans were able to do it really, really effectively. They're playing a really cloudy, hard to diagnose, you could be in this spot or that spot, a little bit matchier type of shell zone, and I think that that's really, really special, and Jesse Minter can do that.
It's telling to me that the game that could end this Chiefs season is getting announced by the CBS third team at 1 p.m.
Wow.
I mean, I love Kevin Harlan. He's my number one. They made that choice.
Slight for
I'm just saying it's interesting. It's like dynasties die in darkness.
But Kevin Harlan is eternal.
Yes. Depending on the typeface on the font, whether or not democracy dies. Apparently it's on that path. The Baltimore Ravens, 2.5-point favorites at the Cincinnati Bengals, who were all over them a couple of weeks ago on Thanksgiving. Greg, the over-under 52.5. Spiro Ditas, as well as Adam Archuleta on the call. The Bengals made a touch of a donation late there in Buffalo that saw things go the other way. Can their defense do it again against Lamar and company?
I would doubt it, but this Ravens offense has enough problems that you like. Which is the bigger issue, the Ravens offense or the Bengals defense? On Thursday,
Yes.
on that Thanksgiving game, it was the Ravens offense ultimately making enough mistakes in that game, and I just think it's clear to me that Lamar is playing a little. I thought he played better in that game. Everyone is saying how injured they think he looks. Well, and maybe he does compared to the old Lamar, but I thought he's moved pretty well the last 2 weeks, certainly last week. But he's not getting much help from Derrick Henry. I think it's safe to say Derrick Henry is slowed down. That the workload that he had last year at his age, or it's just age in general, the explosive ability from him isn't there as much. The offensive line, Patrick, I'm sure you're chagrined to see that your Daniel Falele slander that you've had on this podcast all season has really gone national. It's taken off.
No, it's not just me. At some point, you would like for it to go worldwide in Owings Mills, to where it's a disservice to be completely honest, because it's very difficult to play this game at this level. And Daniel Falele is a very large person who you don't necessarily want him in open space with a defensive back. But when that open space is within the gaps of the offensive line, and the rush is obviously coming, there's just been so many reps of Falele blocking air this season that I think it has limited people's expectations. Like you're right now, 40 seconds ago, saying Derrick Henry might be washed. I think
I'm not saying he's washed. I'm saying he's not as good as he was. I think it's clear.
Which time is linear.
Yeah.
But I do think if there's if there's better play, and not to say that you have to do things differently, but as Lamar was lamenting, they know it's coming.
Mm.
And that's true in different aspects. Like they know that the run is not necessarily a great option for the Baltimore Ravens in the red zone, and they know exactly where to blitz because the Baltimore Ravens have had issues in picking that up. And not to put it all on one player, but it's an entire organizational circumstance where you put 77 in this position to play this way, and you get the same results every single time. At what point is something else done?
And like you said, it is not just one person. It is not just one player. So when I say this, it is certainly not like Lamar is feeling a lot of the effects of a lot of this structural issues, I think. But he also is struggling himself, and he's clearly not healthy, and he's missed Wednesday practice. He's kind of on this new rest and recovery routine where he has a DNP on Wednesdays, and then he still plays that following weekend, including this week. But the red zone stuff, I mean, they are 30th in red zone touchdown percentage, which is the worst of the Lamar Jackson era in Baltimore. And part of it is because he is not a threat in the run game either. He still has yet to force a single missed tackle on design run on the design run plays or any runs at all. And that's a problem because in the red zone, it adds a layer and a dimension to the way you can attack a very small amount of space and the way that defenders have to try to cover you. And if the quarterback is such a truly a dual threat, we know he can pass the ball when he's passing the ball well, and like he has in almost every season to this point, he can pass the ball better than pretty much any quarterback in the NFL. Like a gorgeous pure passer, but he's also not really. You don't really consider him as having a number one receiver per se. Zay Flowers has been productive, but I don't know if you would call him a threat that is being like truly bracketed by defenses week after week after week. And what does that do? That assigns everybody else to mathematical advantages against every other player on the field. And then when you take away the quarterback who's clearly not healthy, when you take away his legs, you're then giving even more away of what is so layered historically of your offensive attack. It's many, many problems at one time, but this is the worst Ravens offense we've really seen over an extended period with Lamar Jackson actually on the field and playing. And statistically, a lot of these stats back it up. But the good news for the Ravens is that when we're talking about historic worsts,
Sure.
the Bengals defense is allowing 6.32 yards per play, which is the 4th most in the Super Bowl era, guys. So good for the Ravens.
It was getting better for a couple. Well, yes, except if we hadn't just seen them handle them, I do think the Ravens will bounce back. And I don't think it should be slept on that, like, Lamar did rush for a touchdown last week, that he did, I think, look better, even if he's not the same guy running, and looked to run more last week. So I think that's important.
Good. Yeah, it's a good point.
If you want to extrapolate the agitation, the outward frustration from Lamar, where when he was more hurt, you didn't see that. Like, he's not wasting energy being demonstrative on the sideline at people, specifically at Daniel Falele, because he wasn't feeling great. And you see it now in the reactions where Mark Andrews breaks up a touchdown pass for Nuke Hopkins in these other situations where, you do have reason to believe he's.
They had 420 yards last week. There were a lot of signs that it was coming around, but it was a frustrating game. It was also frustrating to watch them put T. Higgins back in the game multiple times after concussion tests.
It was the exact same situation, Greg. Like, clear replay of his head bouncing off of the field.
And then he goes into the concussion protocol. And then I was surprised to see he is practicing on a limited basis again Wednesday. So there is a chance he'll clear the protocol, but clearly he suffered symptoms, or else they wouldn't have put him back in it despite playing it. But if he is not there, that would change things for the Bengals, certainly. Tight ends, by the way, against the Bengals. It's like a thing that every broadcast crew mentions every week when you're playing the Bengals. But it is crazy that they've given up something like 300 plus more yards against tight ends than any other team. And I know the Ravens didn't quite hit that button a couple weeks ago, but they do have a couple pretty good tight ends.
Yeah, they could do it this time. They could do it, especially with Lamar feeling better, to your point. I love that note about you could see it all over on the sideline. And I think if it's just restructured this way, where getting that Wednesday rest just helps his body feel better, I mean, by all means, give him Thursday too. I mean, this dude, it's not like you need to reteach or reinstall this offense with him. He's been running it at the highest level there is.
Oh, we've seen it. We've seen it with great quarterbacks over the years, depending on the injury, depending on the season.
Yeah.
I think Stafford's had time like that. Brady certainly has. If that's what needs to happen, it's what'll happen. And if it doesn't happen, and we're going to take a break with this because this is a longer conversation. I just suddenly got the feeling today. I just realized, like, this is it for Harbaugh. If they don't make the playoffs, forget it. And I kind of think if they don't win like multiple games in the playoffs, and it's not about that he's a bad coach. It's just like sometimes things come to an end, and this just feels like a logical time that it would come to an end. So it puts a lot of heat on what happens down the stretch.
The Tennessee Titans head coach, John Harbaugh.
The Michigan job just came open.
Look at that. We're starting rumors with absolutely no grounding in reality.
Stretch around.
Just vibes. That's what we're all about. We'll take a break, come back, wrap up the Week 15 slate. Back on NFL Daily, one thing about having no bye week, more games in the preview show. More time for us together.
More time on the good games. Maybe we'll have some quick ones here in this particular segment.
Why'd you look at me saying that?
No, because there's only two people other than me in the room.
There are some good teams here, but not as, the matchups aren't as great.
All right, the Cleveland Browns at the Chicago Bears, who were 7.5 point favorites after a loss in what was a great game that came down to the wire against the Green Bay Packers. The over-under is 39.5. Kevin Kugler and Daryl Johnston on the call. Shedeur Sanders went off last week. What does he do against the Bears this week?
Yeah, I'm excited to see, because this will be a great test. This will be a great test and his continued development. I love this. This defense, him playing against this defense. I'm excited to see what they do. The Browns themselves seem sort of resigned yet again, another year in a row, to their fate. I'd be really surprised if many in that building are still in their roles by the end of at the end of this season as it concludes. But in the meantime, I think we're watching a young quarterback grow up in the league. And on the other side, we're watching what can happen when you pair that young quarterback with the right team around him, with the right head coach in Caleb Williams. And as you guys know, I love watching the Bears offense. I love watching this run game in particular with my dude, Kyle Manung dude. And once again, put on a show last week and expected to do the same this week.
Well, it's one of the best matchups in the week, I think, when the Bears have the ball. Yeah. Now, the Browns are coming off one of their worst games of the year. They got pushed around a little bit by the Titans up front. So it is fair to point out they are not faultless. Like that was maybe only like the second time this year where the defense let them down. It doesn't happen often, but I think it's a fascinating test for that Bears offense against this pass rush. They've had Ozzie Trapilo playing well
Got some stuff too.
at left tackle after getting, is a high draft pick that didn't get much playing time the first couple months of the season, but through injury he's come in and he's played really well. So I think it's a great test, and I do think the Bears, I mean the Browns are a dangerous opponent for their opponents in the final month of the season, just because if you have one side of the ball that good, like an upset is always possible.
That's why we thought things would go significantly different last week. We'd have liked it was the Tony Pollard game. That was a career high in rush yards, where you're wondering how this Ben Johnson Bears rushing attack, which has looked so good in the past few weeks, is going to look against Cleveland and what they can take away from that performance. But again, it's late in the season. It's the Browns. The only thing that most people are going to be interested in is Miles's magic number is now at
him and Shadur. Actually, for a 3-win team, they have a lot of heat, and I think if Shadur plays well over this final month, and their matchups aren't that tough in terms of the defenses overall, it's Bears, Bills, Steelers, Bengals. I would say that's an average to decent setup for the Browns offense specifically, not for their defense. It's a lot of good 3 great offenses they're playing, but if he can just play how he's playing, I do think that'll establish enough of a level where they're not necessarily looking at quarterbacks in the draft, because they'll think, hey, did we get like a Teddy? It's a different type of player, but did we get a Teddy or Derek Carr level of player that like we can roll with for a season and then see that sort of level where it's like, yeah, he's probably not going to be top 5 or top 10, but can he just like stabilize the quarterback position for a year or two, and we'll see, and maybe he'll develop into a capital G guy. I think he has a shot at doing that in the next month is going to really inform their decision.
Oh, I love this slate for him because, it will be a challenge, but it will be a really good, like, teaching tool type of challenge. Like, you need to play these types of teams if you are a developing these types of defenses specifically. And you also need to be faced with a lot of different situations that these teams are going to put the Browns offense in and put Shadur Sanders in. You're facing a wide variety of pressure design. You're facing a wide variety of run pass balance based on the weaknesses of the upcoming opponents. Basically, you're going to learn so much about this guy through the next month. And I love that about what he's got ahead of him, because as you guys, we talked about this, all of us did before the draft. Like, he's got, to me and to us, he's got a really high ceiling. And so if you can watch these types of things get put together, and you can watch how they game plan with him and how they strategize and how they attack a wide variety of what he'll see, like, I love this for him. This is like grad school, honestly, this next month.
You know who doesn't have a high ceiling?
Who's that?
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
True.
Haven't hit that on the show, but the reports, including from our network, that he's going to be on the roster next year and he'll have a chance to compete. I understand why they're out there, and I maybe the part of the Browns believe. I think they're just trying to get trade value. I think they're trying to find a way to get someone to maybe essentially have the reverse Brock Osweiler trade, where you pay a little bit, they like take on some of Deshaun Watson's salary to get a draft pick from the Browns just to get him off the roster. I do not believe for a second he will ever play a snap for the Cleveland Browns again, and I kind of doubt he'll ever play a snap in the NFL again.
Part of why I don't think that will be successful, I think you're spot on about why this is coming out and from whence or from whomst. But I think part of what is going to make this dead in the water is every other owner in the league was so pissed off about that contract that there's no way they're going to help with that contract.
It's a losing game. Like, I don't even know why they're trying. But Browns fans also shouldn't freak out that he's going to be competing to start next year. I just don't believe it.
Yeah, worthwhile reminder that the ownership of the NFL, it was appalled at the Deshaun Watson situation as it pertains to the contract. The Las Vegas Raiders
said, Patrick.
At the Philadelphia Eagles, who are favored by 11.5 points. Gregg Rosenthal, the over-under is 38.5. Joe Davis and G-Reg on the call. Jalen had the worst game that he's ever played in football, I would say. How does he bounce back?
Yeah.
Well, because he's a talented quarterback. It's crazy they asked him if they would consider benching Jalen Hurts. Then again, they did once ask Bill Belichick if there was any thought of benching Tom Brady at one
him
point. Like
again.
these questions do happen to
He's
even the
back,
greats.
baby.
Do you remember that one? That was
Yeah.
good.
All the way back,
all the way back.
Patrick. I'm telling you.
It was actually my friend Tom Curran who asked it, which
Tommy.
I don't mind.
Tom.
Speaking of Tom, starting to take some heat for bad decision making that's not
Brady.
helping another business.
Brady,
Tom Brady
not
What?
for this Las Vegas Raiders.
Questionable
season.
investment from Tom Brady?
So that's interesting to me. They gotta just have a good bring out that positivity rabbit and get the running game going. I am as worried about the running game as I am Jalen Hurts. 40% stuffed rate. Here's the stat I had for you last week. That's at or near the line of scrimmage for Saquon Barkley. 40% of their runs against a run defense you said isn't very good, which maybe is true, but like
Yeah. Well,
they stink.
ultimately, like Stoutland University can only do so much if there's no like laptops or pencils. And when like Landon Dickerson is out there, like with what's left of a leg, trying to play, where you wonder like if Stoutland and the coaching staff are looking up at Howie, like you're doing it again, Howie. But as far as what's available for us
Take my way.
here on the offensive line, like we maybe could have done something at the deadline because this was a problem that kind of persisted as the season went on.
Lane Johnson is supposed to return at some point.
That helps.
Maybe it will be this week, maybe it won't be, but it's a week-to-week thing.
Speaking of legs, my most exciting thing
We've got
about
them.
this game
6 of them.
is that we're going to get to hear Greg Olsen, who competed with Tom Brady or is in competition as a broadcaster with Tom Brady, call a game pertaining to a true disaster of an operation right now in the Las Vegas
that's
Raiders.
good.
Potential spice.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why
I wouldn't call it a revenge game, but I am excited about it.
But that's why, Tom like had Greg Olsen on his podcast or vice versa in the offseason and tried, Greg
Everything's
Olsen
fine.
said that, he was very nice to him and stuff and that they tried to calm the waters. So maybe.
Well, I mean, G-Reg's not going to take open shots. Like he wasn't within that, Patriots situation wherever,
Competitors are always competitors, even if they're not playing anymore.
Maybe he's grinding tape a little extra.
I know he's not cloning his dog, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think there's a ton here. Obviously, if they don't even cover this number against the Raiders, that'd be a disappointment. I did notice the Sirianni effect, I think, on their offense, which he was supposedly having a heavier hand and taking it was a lot of empty last week. Didn't work very well, but a lot of empty. And then I think the more sticky part of it was they were taking more shots and there were more longer developing throw the ball down the field type plays in that game against a defense designed to prevent that than almost all season. So I do think maybe you'll see that more out of the Eagles. And it'll work this week.
Well, yeah, it'll work better this week because what are they going to be playing against single high all game? That won't change?
They're going to need at least a 2-touchdown lead in the final seconds, or Pete Carroll's going to kick that field goal, Gregg Rosenthal. Make things look a little better.
Also, my last point on that Monday night game was, man, Cooper DeJean is a hell of a player to watch live. Just watch him on every play. I'm like, that is what an all-pro looks like. He was impressive.
He's so smooth the way that he attacks and constricts space. Like if to really appreciate a player like that, and I always used to do this with Jalen Ramsey, was you have to watch the all-22. Skip. We love you, Greg. We'll listen to the broadcast, but skip the broadcast of this one and just watch the all-22 copy and just watch it because it's gorgeous. It's a thing. It's a work of art the way that they have that roll in.
Another chance for a guy who's the sliding doors of the NFL, Vic Fangio, where it's all connected to Vic Fangio.
And Brett Rippon.
The Washington Commanders on the road after getting toasted 31-0 against the Minnesota Vikings, taking on the New York Giants, who are favored by 2.5 points. The over-under is 47.5. Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma, they're on the call where we get a chance to see Jackson Dart back up against the defense that kind of struggled against J.J. McCarthy. Jourdan, how do you think Jackson Dart looks?
Well, this should be fun, right?
A rousing endorsement.
I think you'll see him.
That's the closest thing you've ever had to a non-answer. Just I don't have anything.
I don't know, Greg.
Yeah.
I think it felt like an answer to me.
It's what's not being said.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's amusing me actually because going over our notes every week and getting all these notes ready to go for this game, I sat and stared at this bracket in my notes page for quite some time because I have very little to say about this game.
Well, the Giants haven't played. They had just had the bye. That first game back from Dart was uneven. In general, I think he's been a pleasant surprise as a rookie, and if he can close out strong this month, that's important for him and the Giants, just because it's been a really good rookie season. He does seem like I was talking about with Shadur, he's been at another level of I do feel like he's a guy you can build around and see what you can make happen. So you want to see him continue to play well. And on the other side, Jaden Daniels isn't playing, and that's disappointing. He's had a really disappointing season because he's been hurt, but even when he's been on the field, it hasn't been the same, which makes it more disappointing that he's not healthy. What can you do? But it's another Marcus Mariota game. They're not ruling out Jaden Daniels for the rest of the season, but reading between the lines, I think that's on the table. There's just no way to know.
Well, they got a partial rebuild at least ahead of them, especially multiple positions along that defense. Really, the most intriguing thing, I think Jackson Dart's great. I think he's going to be their quarterback if he can stay healthy and out of the blue tent. He'll be their quarterback for a while. I think I've seen enough at this point, and he clearly galvanizes his teammates. They like him. They like playing with him. I would love to see him operate with a little bit more of an arsenal around him. What this actually looks like, but for 3 games, we just don't really know. What I think is a more intriguing plot point of the Giants season right now is it's like an episode of Traitors or Survivor or something. Every week, someone's getting voted off Giants Island. In this case, Brian Cox, the defensive line coach, was fired by the team, and reports, including by my colleague Dan Duggan at The Athletic, said that it was because there was some agitation about the seats on the team plane flying home, which Mike Kafka didn't quite address in his postgame or in his press conference starting the week. So every week, you're just starting to see someone's getting voted off week by week by week in a slow drip until it's all gone.
Shout out to Brian Cox, still getting it done in the NFL, or not?
Yeah.
What?
No, I'm trying to imagine what the seat confrontation could have possibly been.
I too am curious about such a thing.
It's never just the seats. I'm assuming there's some other stuff.
Well, there was also some commentary. This is why they've had to deal with some crap. That's a great beat up there because they know the context of certain things. And Dan was saying Brian Cox and Brian Daboll are very close. And so there's perhaps.
Well, also, if you remember Brian Cox as a player, maybe I'm aging myself here, whether as a player or as a coach, he does not seem like a man who would suffer fools gladly or toe the company line. He would be a line stepper in a fun way possible for me, but maybe not for his bosses.
and to his credit, right?
Yeah.
You're told to toe the company line, but if you don't necessarily need it, maybe
you got something lined up on the outside. Maybe you got something else lined up.
Or you can just not and tell people what they can do with a particular job.
UNC defensive line coach Ryan Cox.
Jacoby Brissett and the Arizona Cardinals on the road taking on the Houston Texans, who are favored by 9.5. They just keep winning. Gregg Rosenthal, the over-under is 42.5. Chris Myers and Mark Schlereth there to watch a spectacular defense going up against the team that almost exclusively throws the ball at this point.
It is outrageous. Trey Benson on the Cardinals is now out for the rest of the season. There was some hope he would come back. In fact, he returned to practice, and then I guess it didn't go well, and so that only outlines, yes, Patrick, that they are a pass-first attack, and they played quite well for a half against the Rams. The problem on offense, you're giving me rolling eyes. They literally scored on their first, what was it, 2 or 3 possessions? And then they had one drive where Jacoby misses one throw, and then suddenly they're down by 2 touchdowns because the Rams are scoring a touchdown. And it's just every single drive. It's tough to play football that way, but it has been fun to see Trey McBride on his path. And this would be the biggest test possible against this team. Although weirdly, the Texans have been bad against slot players this year, and he's out there sometimes.
But Azeez Al-Shaair has been great against tight ends. They're using him more in coverage. He totally locked down Travis Kelce. Now, I think Trey McBride's playing better than Travis Kelce, of course, right now. But but Azeez Al-Shaair is a monster in pass defense right now.
Mike McBride leads the NFL in receptions. He's over 900 yards too. So I think he's on his way to his first team All-Pro. Who else would it be? I think it's Trey McBride.
I love that. The one player I didn't curse this year.
There you go.
Back
He's
better
too,
than ever.
He's too good to get cursed. It is a little weird seeing the Texans favored by 9.5 in the year 2025. It really shows how many people are going over to your side, Patrick, of them as a Super Bowl contender, which I agree they're a contender.
Well, it's because of they got what you were calling for weeks ago, just like normal. It's just a big sign.
Yeah,
it's like offensive line, normal, regular, and they have been. And amid pressure where the Chiefs were crowding the line, Spags was blitzing Stroud what felt like the entire second half, even in situations where Andy Reid put him in a position where they had to try to get negative plays. And with bullets flying, Stroud looked pretty solid to the extent where we don't ever since like the you could make it the Mac Wilson injury or maybe the schedule for this Cardinals defense where it's just been a precipitous fall.
Every week they have some really crappy luck injury. Paris Johnson, the tackle, being the one this week or last week, sprained MCL, so he's going to be out, and that just really stinks. We like the Cardinals every offseason lately, very recently, in terms of we see their ideas and we like some of their players and we like the way that some of the scheme works and all of that. But man, they can't close. They can't close a game and they can't close a season, and it's just tough.
Bad combo.
It's a bad combo, and that's why they're here right now. The thing about the Texans that I love right now is that they're getting more precision out of their young receivers. C.J. Stroud is getting some great production from Jourdan Higgins out of Iowa State, who they absolutely love. They love that receivers room and that coach, Matt Campbell, so much, in fact, that they drafted his teammate as well. But Jourdan Higgins is playing great, and they're getting they look, like you said, they look normal. They look at least middle of the pack on offense, and when you have a defense as elite as that group is, you can work with that.
And you can run on this Cardinals team. Woody Marks missed practice Wednesday, but he did that last week too, so I think he's going to be fine. They need him to be fine. Nick Chubb is a little banged up, but you're right. Higgins is kind of playing the role that I thought Christian Kirk would play.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk is out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing. They actually have a lot of weapons. Texans are alive.
One of the throws that Stroud missed,
Greg texts me every week.
great protection on was to Christian Kirk. So maybe they get everything going. As we get to, I do owe an apology to Brady Cook. I was unfamiliar with his game last week. I've done a little more digging. I'm looking back to his first big playing time in college football against Georgia when they lost 43-6. But he got better. He went on and he made his way to the National Football League. And now we may have Brady Cook playing for the Jets with Tyrod Taylor and his growing injury. On the road at the red-hot Jacksonville Jaguars, Jourdan, who were favored by 12.5 points. Tom McCarthy and Ross Tucker on the call. The over-under is 41.5. Can the Jets do anything to slow down this red-hot Jags team?
I love what the Jags are doing right now. I do want to apologize to the Jets and to Brady Cook because when I watched that, I had that game last week. One thing that I had dominantly in my notes that I should have mentioned or should have pushed in somehow instead of probably rambling about some nonsense like I tend to do was how many drops the receivers had. Brady Cook put a couple of nice throws together. He put together a really nice drive at the end of the game before he was ultimately intercepted, but on a would-be touchdown, ill-advised throw also. So those are also happening. But he had probably in the double digits of passes dropped by his receivers in that game last week. Now, does that make a difference against the Jags this week? No, I don't think so. Trevor Lawrence is coming off the best game of his career. To me, this is not an argument for like
he had some pretty good 2023 games.
The level of Trevor,
right?
But this was in a downpour, Greg. This was in a downpour where you expect the Carson Wentz level of modern Carson Wentz, Trevor Lawrence, to emerge, right? And instead, he was a better version of Trevor Lawrence, and he had more personality. And talking to people over in Jacksonville, they love that his personality is emerging, that he's not so within himself, or maybe like even a little shell-shocked from some of the stuff that he's gone through and observed just organizationally over the last couple of years. He's like butting heads with Liam Cohen on the sideline, and he's similar to what we talked about Justin Herbert a little bit earlier this year. When he did the first down points and all this stuff.
Yeah.
His personality as who they want him to be as this quarterback is coming out. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. And it matches the level of aggressiveness and enthusiasm that the rest of this team is playing with and really has played with all season.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes like athletic arrogance from Lawrence
I
last
love
week.
that.
He was playing cocky. Like the throws he was trying, he's always a guy who tries stuff. But some of the running, he has looked to run more the last couple of weeks. We talked all offseason that the one fly in the ointment with the Jags was Liam Cohen was brought in to help bring Trevor to the next level, and we wanted to see it click. And I think the last 2 weeks are the best 2 weeks, even. I'll extend it back a week, that he's had since that 22 season in which he somehow got an MVP vote lower down. How did that happen? Really? On that 9-8 Jags team? But he had a little stretch in that season where he was absolutely on fire, and the last couple of weeks really remind me of that. And I thought the biggest development in the game, other than that, was it was a great Brian Thomas Jr. game. It looked like the old Brian Thomas Jr. He had one really routine catch, which actually was over the middle of the field. In cut. It's more just sit in the zone type of play. But his speed makes a zone look so much slower because he just gets to that spot so fast, and Trevor threw it with anticipation, and he's open by 10 yards because you just can't account for that kind of speed on an intermediate route. And then he had 2 great other catches, one on the sideline on one of the best throws of the year by Lawrence, and another which he bobbled a little bit on a slot fade, but he caught it in the end. And 3 big time plays, and Jacoby Myers is great, but Jacoby Myers doing his Jacoby Myers thing with a truly explosive weapon next to him, that now you're cooking with gas.
You get a chance to see the vision. And it
the
all
agenda,
comes together.
the Jourdan agenda.
But also on that BTJ catch on the sideline, also on the T. Higgins touchdown, we gotta clear up in the rule book what hand fighting is. Because when the receivers are making these catches with one hand because the other one is being grabbed and held, that's pass interference. I know BTJ bobbled it because he only had one arm with which to work with. We got to start throwing that.
I love it. I think Parker Washington's going to be back this week. He left the game last week with a weird
couple weeks ago, right?
With the super weird moment where he doubled over. He's grabbing his side out of nowhere. He is an absolutely electric kickoff and punt returner. So their special teams has really come along, but also he's really finding a niche inside the offense as well. Him and Jacoby Myers are rotating with each other, sort of orbiting around inside and outside of the slot. And that's interesting to me because as I'm personally invested in this passing game. And I am so interested in how many combinations they can deploy out of the fact that they're not just using Jacoby Myers on the perimeter, nor Brian Thomas Jr., nor Parker Washington. These guys are starting to interchange in a way that we know that this offense goes to the next level and takes another step forward when it can run all of those different types of combinations against the defense and do so effectively and really, really well.
I mean, once we get back in terms of health, if Parker Washington comes back, Brenton Strange, Kobe Myers,
that's a pretty damn good
BTJ, Parker Washington.
This version of Trevor Lawrence.
It looks pretty good. Oh, and an update from earlier, Greg. The line has gone back to the Buffalo Bills.
Wait, how? Were we just wrong earlier? What happened?
No.
This is crazy.
The line moves because they want to spur action.
They're listening to Greg.
That is crazy. And yes, we have just wrapped up the Texans and Jaguars are in a new place in their season where they are favored heavily. Can they both just take care of business, take another step to the playoffs? The Jaguars could be 10-4 after this week. All they got to do is beat Brady Cook, and they are getting healthier. Patrick McCarry, Robert Hainsey, the interior line was back last week. Trayvon Walker is now healthy, fully healthy again. The Jaguars are a Super Bowl contender. I truly believe every team, as currently, how the AFC looks, is a Super Bowl contender. Maybe I take out the Steelers. Sorry.
We miss you, Patrick McCarry.
That's it. We did it. Week 15. Excellent slate. Early and late. And yes, we're back to having a full 15 games. So we'll be back on Sunday to recap all that. Before that, you will hear a number of exciting shows in the feed. Of course, our usual picks against the spread. The greatest streak in sports continued because of that Monday night victory by the Chargers. 10 straight winning weeks on the picks against the spread pod with Cynthia. And then we, of course, have our Saturday sickos with Ali Connolly. But most importantly, we've got Jourdan Rodrigue and her new series coming up, Power Players. So check that all out. It's coming later this week on NFL Daily. Let's get out of here. A lot of honking. You did it. You were just ready with that.
Oh, was it? It's a little delayed.
Why, he's a showman. See you next time on NFL Daily.